I think that out of the mouths of the other side, you've heard all kinds of reasons why this motion should be voted on in our direction. Human nature is not going to change. We've heard from a number of the other opponents talking about there would be ongoing development of these things without care for safety. In the cat and mouse game of trying to improve what's out there, there would be no care for safety. So that if you have a doctor prescribing 10 cc's of anabolic steroid, and everybody's doing that, then there's no more advantage. So the person who wants the advantage is going to use 20 or 30 or 40, and that will be pursued, as will the sort of research in that area. We had Kelly White, American sprinter, come to the World Anti-Doping Agency after she got caught in the Balko situation. They were giving her the clear, THG. She said she was having 2 enormous menstrual cycles every month, and she had blood pressure that was going right through the roof. And she went to Conte and the others and said, this is happening. He said, well, maybe you should take a little less and drink some more water. They had no idea this stuff was going from a laboratory bench into her system and the system of other athletes. Excellence within sport is what everyone searches for, but it's excellence within agreed rules. And the community speaks.
30 seconds, Dick.
30?
30.
The community has spoken. I think the community has a legitimate interest in things that may be a health interest. You know, what happens in the major league influences AAA, AA, single A, college, high school ball. There are pyramids in hockey and basketball. This is a public health problem. And finally, I thought one point made by Dr. Fost was quite telling. He said, more or less, that alcohol, in response to this gentleman's question, alcohol, tobacco, steroids, and other dangerous things should be discouraged. And I agree with him entirely.
Every person on this panel agrees that people should play by the rules, and there isn't anyone up here who has defended breaking the rules. The topic that's here for debate tonight is what are the basis of those rules. If there was a rule prohibiting people playing with red hair, we would say, of course, if you have red hair, you can't play. But we wouldn't say that that was a sensible rule. So rules have to have some moral basis or some rational basis. The fact that they simply are there doesn't tell us anything about the basis of them. When we look at what the claims for them are, they seem hypocritical, inconsistent, or based on bad facts. People say they're based on concerns about fair competition, but sports allow grossly unfair competition, Olympic sports, countries against countries, baseball, Yankees against Brewers. The leagues tolerate unfair competition, so I simply don't believe them when they say they're passionately concerned about fair competition. They say they're concerned about harm. When the president of the National Hockey League says that he has screening for drugs because he's concerned about the safety and health of the athletes, and there's no laughter in the press room, you have to really wonder about what's going on. If you have good arguments, you don't make up things. We have Lyle Alzado being rolled out again tonight 3 times. There's not a doctor in America who knows anything about steroids and cancer who thinks Lyle Alzado's tumor had anything to do with steroids. There's not another steroid user ever who had the kind of cancer he had. So if the headline had said, Lyle Alzado, alcohol user, has brain cancer, I guess we'd be talking about alcohol causing brain cancer.
20 seconds.
So the need to roll out misinformation over and over again suggests there's not much going on the other side.
Well, tonight the motion is about performance-enhancing drugs. Should they be allowed in sports? I agree with what has been said, that it wasn't about breaking the rules. But I've also heard performance-enhancing drugs tonight compared to your morning latte, to LASIK eye surgery. Maybe we should not allow glasses or a contact lens. But that is not the question. If the question was about alcohol abuse, again, I think we would all love to come back and talk about that. But performance-enhancing drugs is the issue, and to me, this, no matter how long it takes, this is a battle worth fighting. What happens if I'm a Major League Baseball player under a doctor's supervision? He tests me, looks at my blood pressure, looks at all the factors, and decides, Dale, I don't think you are going to be one of our guinea pigs, as Dr. Fost intimated that we could use Major League Baseball players for if we
1 minute
if we let this go, because your blood pressure isn't. I know you're trying to have kids. We don't want to boost your testosterone. If it is generally acceptable to use these things in my sport, but I can't use them or choose not to, I am at a totally unfair disadvantage. Speaking of the Yankees, and that they have more money than anybody else, Dr. Fost must have not been following the Yankees during the 80s, when they had more money than anybody else. If somebody with a lot more money than George Steinbrenner wants to buy the Yankees, again, that is fair competition. You can spend your own money, but it doesn't guarantee success. Again, performance-enhancing drugs somehow was linked to the fact that the Yankees have an unfair advantage because they have a higher payroll. Again, the two don't compare. That's not what we're discussing tonight. And
time to wrap up.
And to me, again, Julian mentioned a zero-tolerance rule, that it's confusing and that we don't know what's out there. In baseball, there is not a zero-tolerance rule. I wish there was. I think we would make great strides in comparing that to the zero-tolerance rule we have on gambling on baseball. We can make progress and change the culture.
We're in a sort of a feeding frenzy about this at this point, and it's a common tactic, or it's a common phenomenon when drug issues hit the media. Things tend to spin off into a moral panic. And we sort of saw it tonight from our opponents. I mean, the question tonight the entire time is, what should the rules governing sports be? And a common refrain, particularly from Mr. Pound, was that, well, we shouldn't allow performance-enhancing drugs in sports because the rules say we shouldn't allow them. And I guess what I'm hoping you'll take away from this after listening to our side of this is that maybe every now and then we should sort of take a step back and examine whether the rules themselves are moral and are justified.
I don't know if you all have ever heard of Efrain Marrero. Efrain Marrero, have you ever heard of him, Bob?
The kicker.
No, I was his cousin. Efrain Marrero was a kid wanted to play baseball. He was good, not great. But he found out, someone told him, he's 19 years old, he was told, you use steroids and you're going to be good enough. You've got everything you need, you just need some more power. So he starts using steroids and he becomes good. This is not make-believe, this is real. Efrain Marrero, 19 years old, his parents found out, and like good responsible parents, Dad said, get off that stuff, because he was starting to get a little nutso. Get off that stuff or you can never play another baseball game. He obeyed his parents. He stopped cold turkey. 1 week later, he went into his bedroom and he blew his brains out. But there's no evidence that it was steroids that did it. Time up.
Okay, both sides agree that cheating is ruining sport and that this is really the tip of the iceberg. Their position is that we should increase the war on drugs. Our position is that we should adopt a policy of regulated access to performance enhancers that are safe enough and that are consistent with the particular sport spirit. This is not a debate about steroids. If indeed these claims, which are largely anecdotal claims, are true, that steroids have these terrible effects, our side grants that steroids under those circumstances should be banned. However, that doesn't deal with the use of human erythropoietin up to a hematocrit of 50%. It doesn't deal with caffeine, which is already a performance enhancer that's been legalised. It doesn't deal with growth hormone. There are many, many substances. In baseball, you could use modafinil to increase reaction time. You could use new nootropics, such as the piracetam family, to increase reaction time. These substances may well be safe enough. The question is, should performance enhancers be allowed? And there are many performance enhancers our side believes should be allowed. Their position is bound to fail. It has been failing. It will fail because of the prize money and the sophistication of the drug technology.
45 seconds.
Paradoxically, it harms athletes. Our proposal is enforceable. It frees up the limited resources to focus on drugs that may be affecting children, which we grant should not have access to drugs. It could be focused on drugs which are substantially harmful to athletes and drugs which are against the true spirit of sport. This is not a debate about steroids. It's about whether performance enhancement itself is against the spirit of sport. As we've argued, Performance enhancement is not against the spirit of sport. It's been a part of sport through its whole history, and to be human is to be better, or at least to try to be better.